Hey y'all, and welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, my name's Emily, and we make recovery videos for severe anxiety, panic disorder, agoraphobia, all that super fun stuff. So if you're struggling with that, please subscribe, connect with us, check the description for this video. You can join our private Facebook group, you can download my free recovery guide, and yeah, just stay connected. So the topic that I want to chat about today is actually kind of something that can apply to not only people that are in the anxiety cycle, but people that just kind of deal with holiday anxiety in general. So the topic is holiday anxiety. And if you see me staring kind of behind me, it's because I have my notes on my laptop, so that is why. But I've got kind of just a few talking points, and I want to talk about, why holiday anxiety happens and what to do about it, So if you've seen my video, you saw that I fell into a very severe panic cycle in 2021 following a surgery. So before all of that mess, I did deal with holiday anxiety, a little bit of holiday depression, just feeling off around the holidays. And so now that I am out of all of the panic cycle, I've been able to really kind of implement some practices around this time of year that help me. And so hopefully it can help you if you struggle with this. So first of all, my experience with this, I would say, again, prior to all the panic stuff, all that kind of everything, when I was just living a normal life, around, I would say, November, I started feeling stressed out. And it would be a combination of things. It gets dark earlier, so you have less sunlight, which is a big deal, it really is. It's colder, and then all the stress around the holidays and getting together with people and expectations and just everything that comes along with that. So that is some of the reasons that played into my stress and my anxiety around the holidays, but there's many more. It can be loneliness if people don't have family or friends to get together with. It can be finances and the stress of, buying or the pressure to buy around Christmas and things like that. There's so many reasons for holiday anxiety. So let's talk about basically what to do, because there are practical things that you can do here. In addition to the ideal response that we teach, which we'll talk about. But again, there's practical things that you can do and steps that you can take this time of year. So the first thing that I would say is setting healthy expectations and boundaries internally. So with either if it's you, if you're single, or with you and your spouse and your kids or whatever, but kind of deciding, what do you want your family holidays to look like? What do you want the culture of your home to be like? What do you want the tone of your home to be like? What do you want your traditions to be? Not what you grew up with or what your spouse grew up with. Like, what do you guys want to do? And kind of laying that out, figuring out what that looks like, and then deciding, okay, well, now how do we put those boundaries in place? How do we communicate that to others? How do we, set our own expectations before we kind of let everybody else's expectations come to us and all the stress that comes with that, So step one is deciding, what do you want your holidays to look like? For example, for us, we choose to stay in our own home on Thanksgiving and on Christmas. It makes things so much easier for us. We're not house hopping, we're not traveling. It lowers the stress levels so much, and especially people that are more prone to anxiety or depression, it's really nice to be able to just kind of be in your own home and not have the stress of, deciding where you want to go and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that we do. It's kind of our hard boundary of staying in our own home, but you don't have to do that, obviously. If you decide that you want to, do Thanksgiving here, do Christmas there, or whatever it is, kind of decide, like, what do you guys want to do? Not what does everybody else want you to do, but like, what's the best move for you and your family? What's going to be the least stress for you and your family, for you and your kids? What do you want Christmas morning to be like? What do you want Thanksgiving morning to be like? And then kind of paint that picture, and then go into step two. And so again, step one, and kind of the cliche quote that I like to use for this is the whole stand for something or fall for anything or whatever it is. But it's true, it's like you have to set what do you want before you have everybody else's wants and needs coming your way, and then you don't really get what you want, and then it adds more stress, So that's step one. Step two would be boundary setting, communicating what you've decided to do with others. And that can be tricky depending on your family dynamic. You know, BG and I, my husband, would love to sit down and do like a whole boundaries, you know, series, I would say, video series. And so if that's something that you need or want, please let us know. It's huge, you know, boundary setting is huge. And a couple things to say about boundaries, you know, one, they're biblical. Absolutely they are. Two, they're healthy in general. It's a way to prevent taking responsibility for other people's emotions, their wants, their desires, and a way to take charge of your own life, your own limits, your own limitations. So yeah, boundaries are also really important because we all have very specific and unique callings on our own lives. And so God is going to give us all personal limits, all personal convictions, ways of parenting our unique children, desires to break generational patterns, and so forth. So if we let others control our paths and our family dynamics, then we're not able to listen to God and listen to what God's putting in our hearts for our families. So it just creates chaos. So that's like my elevator speech on why boundaries are important. But examples of boundaries during the holidays can be one, you know, not traveling. Like I said, we don't travel on Thanksgiving or Christmas. It's just a boundary. It's what we decided. Two can be, you know, not seeing XYZ dysfunctional person just because it's a holiday. Now, if you have something like that in your family dynamic and you choose that you don't want to see Uncle so-and-so because they're weird and you don't want them around your children because of valid reasons, then you don't have to, you know, so that's one thing. Not accepting an abundance of gifts, you know, like I know we have friends that are like minimalists, and so they do the tiny living thing, and so if all their family members were to give their kids a ton of gifts, it's going to create chaos in their household for them, you know. So that could be a boundary. Choosing to not overspend due to pressure, so maybe that can look like we will buy for the children, but we're not going to buy for every family member under the sun. That can be a way of doing that. Not accepting house guests during the holidays if you don't want to. I like to host, but if you don't, then don't, you know. I just want to say it's not selfish to set boundaries with others. It's a way of protecting relationships and keeping things in a healthy place. And when it comes to people that kind of push back on boundaries, those are typically the ones that need them the most. For me and BG, we're very like aware of boundaries, so I know that if people were to say, hey, this is what we're doing, it's like, okay, cool, you know, that's what works for you. But when people tend to push back on that, that's usually the ones that really need that communication and boundary in place. Not everyone needs to agree with or understand your boundaries. That's a huge one too. You know, it's not about others, it's about yourself and what you guys decide for your family. So it's not something that necessarily needs to be like negotiated or like explained further than your initial information about the boundary. And so one quote that I like too from a book, Boundaries, Good Boundaries and Goodbyes by Lisa Turkhurst, if I said that right. She says, adults inform and children explain. And so it's good to clearly inform and, you know, state your boundary, but beyond that, when it becomes, you know, explaining exactly why you're doing things and arguing, that's a stressor in itself. And so that's just not something that you need to do. So I wanted to give you an example of clearly communicating a boundary. And so here's the example that I have. So we have decided that we won't be traveling this year for Christmas. It's what's best for our family in this season of life. We'll miss you guys and we'd love to FaceTime you Christmas morning. Done, right? This year for Christmas, we're asking for only one gift per child. When we get a ton of toys, it really disrupts the family dynamic and creates stress. We're looking forward to celebrating together. After this, if you get pushback, reiterate your boundary and move on. The most important thing is to remain consistent and firm, and this is all with love, right? Again, this is to protect the relationship, to protect your heart, to protect your mental health. This isn't like a personal attack on anybody else. This is just you taking charge of your own life. And then keep in mind that this will not feel natural. It may never feel natural, to be honest, but it will get easier. It's a skill that you learn and that becomes more natural with time. So another thing that can be helpful is a calendar. And so we use this calendar, and it's called Our Family Plan. I'm not sure if the blur is going to let you see it or not, but basically you have your days of the week. It says, how will we refresh and reset this weekend? What's the word of the week? We put like a Bible verse. Our weekend, our prayer list, what we're grateful for, our chores and to-dos, bonus projects, rewards, grocery list, menu. And so how will we refresh and reset this weekend? I don't know if I already said that. But basically, this calendar is awesome. We try to fill it out every single Sunday. And this is not just like around the holidays thing, it's something that we do consistently. And so it allows us to really look at our schedule and kind of realize what we can and can't say yes and no to. Because when you're saying yes to one thing, you're saying no to everything else. So yeah, take your yeses as something that's important and be intentional with what you're putting into your schedule. Allow yourself time to relax, to reset, to have time for yourself if that's something that's important for you. So yeah, calendar, just kind of seeing like everything laid out at least a week in advance can be really important because, for example, maybe going to the zoo to see zoo lights sounds like a good idea, and going downtown to the Santa parade, and then going to church and going to see your family members and going to see friends. It all sounds good until you put it on a calendar, and then you're like, dang, I have zero time to rest and recharge. And so then you kind of have to see like, all right, what do we want to do? What do we not want to do? So it's nice to do that. Kind of the last couple things is taking time for just self-care. Maybe it's a bath, maybe it's working out, maybe it's just kind of having like some normalcy in your schedule when everything gets a bit chaotic can be really important. And then taking things, okay, so this is the biggest thing here when it comes to like our channel, what we teach, but things that are out of your control or unproductive, use IDEAL, and that's the response that we teach. It's in the recovery guide. Basically, it's an acronym that we made up, and it's how to respond to anything that you cannot change. That's unproductive is what we call it. And so it's like, again, say you communicate your boundary, you're doing all these things correctly, you're setting yourself up for a good holiday, you're taking your mental health in charge, all that stuff, right? You're in the right. And then people are pushing back, nobody's happy, now you have people that are upset with you, so on, so on, so on. So at this point, you're going to use IDEAL, which is in that guide, so you can read through it. But that's where you just let things go. And that's one of the hardest things for me in my past, is being able to let things go that are really out of my control and that don't serve me and literally have no impact, no matter how much I sit there and ruminate about it and dream about it and wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. So yeah, that's a huge thing too. So I hope this video helped. I know it was kind of a quick talking shorter video on this topic, but if y'all have any questions, please let me know. I hope you have an awesome Thanksgiving with your family or with yourself or with your friends or whoever. And just remember, all of the pressure and expectations are things that we're putting on ourselves 9 times out of 10, and when it comes to others, again, we can kind of communicate that and move on. But with ourselves, we have to just let ourselves have some grace here and really just do as much as we can as far as like what brings us joy and rest and relaxation. And if we just feel down or anxious or crappy or kind of numb around the holiday season, that can just be a seasonal thing due to the sunlight, due to the weather and things like that. So it is what it is, right? We don't have to chase a feeling, we don't have to feel a certain way, and we know that it's going to pass. So again, happy holidays and stay connected.